If you have any information pertaining to this case, please contact the Charleston County Coroner's Office on the telephone at 843-746-4030 or by email at rwooten@charlestoncounty.org. On the afternoon of the 20th of August 2006, a married couple and their 2 young sons decided to take a fishing trip on the Wando River in Charleston County, South Carolina. During the trip, at about 2 p.m., they spotted a black object on the shoreline under the Wando Bridge while passing by on a boat. At first, the husband thought it was an anchor. After realizing the object was a skull, he called the police, then scooped up the skull with a life preserver and moved it farther up the bank so the rising tide would not carry it away. An initial investigation of the skull confirmed that it did belong to a human, though the mandible was missing. There were no obvious signs of trauma, and the medical examiner believed the skull belonged to a female in her late teens or early 20s. Initial testing on the skull could not conclusively determine the sex or race of the person to whom the skull belonged. The cause of death is undetermined, though it is considered suspicious. There was no soft tissue or hair on the skull, and the decedent could have been dead for up to 6 years, placing their date of death somewhere between 2000 and 2006. Because the medical examiner determined the skull belonged to a female in her late teens or early 20s, that was assumed to be the case until further testing was performed in 2016, an entire decade later. DNA testing revealed that the skull actually belonged to a young male between 14 and 19 years old. The decedent, now confirmed to be a male, was of mixed descent, having both black and white ancestry. The chief deputy coroner stated that the decedent may also have been part Hispanic. Teeth number 1 and number 16 were unerupted. Since only the cranium was recovered and no other body parts have been found, the lower half of the mouth down to the chin is an estimation in all facial reconstructions. With no soft tissue on the cranium, the hair and eye color could not be determined, and obviously the decedent's height and weight could also not be determined. With no other bones except the cranium found, and with no known cause of death, it is very hard to theorize about what befell this young man. Anything is possible, from accidental death to a suicide or a homicide. The one thing we do know about his death is that it is considered suspicious, which makes accident and suicide seem less likely to me. The fact that the decedent was thought to be female for 10 years did not help his case. Perhaps he could have been identified much sooner if that mistake was not made. Though it is very hard to tell the difference between the skull of a young woman and a young boy. Dentals and maternal DNA have been collected from the cranium and are available for comparison. NamUs lists 3 rule-outs for this decedent, 2 being female. I shall list only the male rule-out in the description, as we now know that biological females are ruled out by default, and if any more missing people are officially ruled out, then I shall add them to the list. If you have any information pertaining to this case which may aid in the identification of this decedent, or if you have any information about his death, check the beginning of this video again for the appropriate agency to contact.